Hello, I'm Alan White of Yes, and you're tuned in to Backbeat.
All music is the same. It's just a new set of lyrics and a new backbeat.
Okay, well, Alan, thanks
Yes?
a lot for taking time off
Hey,
from
no-
your busy schedule to have a chat with me.
No problem.
You started at the age of 6 playing piano. At 13, you switched to drums. Were you a natural at it, or did the change not come easy?
Pretty much the reason why I didn't really switch from piano to drums. I kept playing piano pretty much all through my life. But at the age of 12, my uncle was a drummer, and he said I played the piano very percussively and had rhythm in my fingers. And then I think he said, well, to my parents, he said, maybe we should buy him a set of drums. And after they bought me a set of drums, within 3 months I was kind of playing on stage, so it was very natural, I think, progression. And from then on, I just kept playing the drums. And I took lessons in piano until the age of 15. And I was glad that I did that, because I use the knowledge of playing piano on the knowledge of playing drums, so it helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. So one, I guess, accompanies or helps the other along.
Yes, because I think at an early age, when you start reading music for piano and understanding melody, if you can play the drums with an understanding of melody, it really helps a lot to play, especially with a band like Yes.
Mm-hmm. You've been the rhythmic and percussive heart of Yes for 25 years now. How does the songwriting process develop within the group?
Boy, we on different albums, probably different approaches, different albums. But for the last maybe 10 years, it's very consolidated and democratic. We all have pieces of music we write, and when we go through the process of kind of making a new album, we all pool our thoughts into one big pool. And some things work with Yes, some things don't work with Yes, but when they work together, everybody pulls their ideas together, and that becomes Yes music. So it's a question of working closely with everybody else in the band, basically.
Recording music is a so-called means to an end. Performing it live is the real thrill. Does the band consciously keep that in mind as to translating the music to the stage?
Yes, always. I believe everything that we actually record in the studio we like at that time, but only when we perform it live on stage you get the real thrill out of performing it to people, and seeing people smiling faces saying this is as good as the record, if not better.
Uh-huh.
And I think the band has a reputation for performing live very, very professionally and good. And we've been on tour now for 7 weeks, and maybe the last 5 weeks the band has been stepping up to the plate, as we say in America.
And what about improvisation?
Improvisation is something that we have that's kind of hidden within Yes music, because the music is very structured. It needs a lot of individual kind of signals and performance musically for other people to realize. But within that kind of structure, there is a lot of improvisation in the structure.
The tour following the release of Magnification in 2001 was backed by a symphony orchestra. What was the atmosphere like with that kind of support?
The atmosphere was great, because the album Magnification was basically done with just 4 people, with Steve Howe, Chris Squire, John, and myself, because we, up until that point for the last few years before that, we just had a hired gun kind of keyboard player. And so if we did anything keyboard-wise, I took on the structure of kind of playing the keyboards to a certain extent. For instance, on songs like In the Presence Of, which I wrote with John, and then everybody in the band contributed. But I came with the basic structure, and I think we always had in our mind when we put the original tracks down to have the orchestra playing the part of a keyboard player, and it was interesting. And we got Larry Groupé, who was the conductor of the San Diego Orchestra. Mm-hmm. He came in and we worked with him, and he came up with ideas for the keyboard parts, as it were, but performed by an orchestra. So it worked really good for us. And then, especially after that, we took a keyboard player to play certain roles in some of the older music, but we also had the conductor, and we'd use the different orchestra every evening. So the conductor would work with the orchestra for 3 hours in the afternoon, and then in the evening we'd meet the orchestra for the first time and then just go on stage together. So it was kind of scary, but at the same time, I think most of the orchestras in America are very professional people, and they were pretty much really spot on every night. Then when we came to Europe, we used a Polish orchestra that consisted mainly of girls that were from the ages of 22 to 30, but they were great because they were more of a rock and roll kind of orchestra. They knew the music, they loved the music, and they really got into the music. The funny thing was that the conductor became like he wasn't there. They used to watch me playing all the time, because a lot of Yes music has crescendos and lots of emotional feeling in certain parts of the music. So out of their left eye, they were watching me, and the right eye, they were watching the conductor. And so I had a good feeling of that. And because I've been playing the music for so long, I could make them take what they were seeing in music and translate it on stage.
You mentioned Europe. What do you look forward to when touring Europe?
Boy, it's Europe has always been an interesting place to come because it changes so different every day. We've done quite a few shows in Germany, but basically we've been doing festivals in Sweden, and we started the whole tour in Ireland. And for instance, we just went to Italy and then Switzerland. So the culture changes every day. It seems like Europe is one big country, but you see the difference in the people every day. It's the different nationalities, and it's good because we love performing in Germany. We always have. And yesterday we were at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and it was total different kind of thing. But they all understand because music is kind of international language, I think, and everybody knew the words to all the songs, the older songs, and were singing everything they knew, and they liked the new music we play on stage too. So it's good to keep moving this forward.
Well, I'm sure that's a nice feeling. With the release of 90125, Yes achieved total mass proportion, and as far as reaching a greater listening audience. Was that intentional?
90125, we tried to take a change in the course of the band's direction, somewhat, to with not the intention of calling it Yes, because we were doing a different project. It was to be called Cinema. And then we put most of the album backing tracks down, and then John got involved and enjoyed the music so much he sang on it. We couldn't call it anything else but Yes. So that was not intentional. It was just the fact that John loved what we were doing and wanted to come back to the fold, and after coming back to the fold, he it was called 90125 by Yes, and we still kept the change in course of direction because Trevor Rabin was a big influence in the writing at that time. But we thought that was a good change in the direction. of writing at that time, because no one, and not everything is written in stone. We can change direction whenever you want to, especially when you quote a progressive kind of band. You can really do whatever you want, and encapsulate it, say, into something like AC/DC, and where you have to kind of create the same thing because your fans are used to that. The world is your oyster, as you say in music, and I think it makes a difference when you can do that.
Over the span of your musical career, you have recorded and played with some very illustrious musicians. Who would you like to rock with, whom you haven't yet?
Let's see, rock with. I played with Jimi Hendrix once, but I don't think he knew he was playing with me.
Okay.
So maybe I'd like to play with Jimi Hendrix when he knew he was playing with me.
When he was aware of it.
Yes. That's probably the best. I don't know. There's many people that I would like to play with.
Old school,
I like to play with Sting. I think he comes from the same part as England as I do, and I know him to a degree, but we've never played together. So it'd be interesting performing some of his music. However, he has a great drummer in Vinny Colaiuta, and which is fine. But I know him, and he didn't realize that I was from the same part of England. He says, "I didn't know there was anybody else famous from around the same area." I said, "Well, yeah, I grew up 20 miles away from you." So it was an interesting kind of meeting. But that's one person I like to play with because I admire his songwriting and bass playing, and obviously playing with somebody like Chris Squire all the time. He's a great bass player, and we have a special relationship for the last, and it's not 25 years, it's 31 years.
It's 31, okay. Is it comforting then to have a solid bass with Yes as opposed to being just a session musician?
I don't mind. I made myself over the years kind of very versatile and playing with different people, from jazz to orchestral to kind of funk, R&B, and lots of many styles, and that's what I listen to. There's a lot of diverse styles, and I can pretty much adapt to a lot of different situations. So, and whatever it is, I give 110%, so I try to analyze it and get into the music. So I always get pleasure out of just playing anyway.
Which drummers would you say you admire most?
Lots of different drummers, but for different reasons. A lot of them in different styles. But when I was in my late teens, I started listening to a lot of jazz fusion kind of groups. So Jacques DeJohnette, Lenny White, Vinny Colaiuta is a great modern drummer, and just many. The list is vast, but they're kind of all good at one particular small aspect of their different styles, I think, and they're all individual people. That I think the main thing with drumming is that you have to be an individual and look at your own style and make your own style either a combination of everything, or just have that inbuilt kind of feeling where you wanted your own style and not play like somebody else.
For example, Neil Peart of Rush.
Neil Peart's a great player, and it's very funny you should say that because we get compared a lot.
I can imagine.
Yeah, we get compared a lot because not only because of Rush and Yes, got a combination, because I know the bass player really likes Yes, and a lot of the earlier things he did were based upon some of Yes things. And Neil Peart, who has a particular style, like myself, like I said, get quoted.
Instantly recognizable.
Yes, and at the same time, he writes lyrics. I don't write lyrics. That's about my worst forte.
Checking out your website, a couple of things caught my eye. You had the opportunity to fly with in a jet with the Blue Angels. Was it Major Olsen, I think his name was?
Yes.
Do you fly yourself, or was he a fan of the Yes music?
I do fly.
Yeah.
When I was in my mid-20s, I learned how to fly because I flew on too many airplanes. I said, if everybody dies, I'll try and land this thing. You know, so that's one of the main reasons I learned to fly. And how it came about was one of the PR guys from the Navy in San Diego is a very, very big fan of yours. And he came to concerts, and he came to me and said, I must get you up with the Blue Angels, and I must take you out to the Carl Vincent, the aircraft carrier. And another friend of a friend was the bass player with Eddie Money, and Eddie Money and myself and the band, they flew us out to Carl Vincent, and we played for the troops while they were doing maneuvers, getting ready to go to Iraq. And we went 100 miles out of the ocean, landed on the carrier, and then and took off on the catapult. It was like an amazing experience.
I'm sure it was.
And after that, he said, I've got to get you up with the Blue Angels at some time. And then maybe it was 4 months ago now, he called up and said, okay, the date is, you know, you're going up with the Blue Angels. And I just happened to be there. I was in California at that time. And then I was in El Centro, and that's where the practice ground was for the winter. And went and took... Did you watch the video?
Yes, I did.
Then you know exactly what I'm talking about. I said, okay.
Who set that up?
No, the video is, they do it with everyone that goes up.
Okay.
They have a pencil cam.
And then they sell it to you when you're done.
No, they give you.
Oh, that's
They
nice.
give it to you. They have a machine on the plane. It's just a normal VHS video, and
Great.
they put a tape in, and then boom, you're gone.
It's too bad the area surrounding your head was so white.
I know, because
it would have been nice to see the background.
They basically want to see your face.
True.
But on the takeoff, you see how fast you take off from the ground. You go from on the runway, I think 0 to 300. By the time you hit the end of the runway, it's 300 miles an hour, and after 100, he lifts the undercarriage, and then he puts the plane at 45 degrees, and you go to 12,000 feet in
you rocket to the
3
moon.
seconds. 3 seconds, 12,000 feet. That's. I'm sure you saw my face. My face was. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yep." I wasn't sure what was to come after that. So.
What's in store for Alan White once this tour is over? I think you guys are just about done now in Europe.
In Europe, yeah, we take August off, and then we go to Japan, and then Australia, Jakarta, Singapore, and then Hawaii, and then play on the west coast of America 3 or 4 shows, and then we take a break for Christmas, and then January we go to South America for 3 weeks, and then February we start thinking about the new album with Rick Wakeman and everybody, and once we've done the album with Rick, I'll start thinking and writing. Then I think next summer they're talking about us going on tour with Grateful Dead.
Oh, I read about that.
With a really interesting combination of bands
imagine.
on stage. Especially if we both play together at one time. I think it could be really interesting. But it sounds like a long show to me.
It certainly does.
Because
the Dead play, what, 3 hours?
Well, they used to play 4 or 5 hours, but I think now it's 3 hours, and we play 2.5 hours. So you're in for a lot of
marathon
notes,
concert.
A lot of notes, a lot of music.
Are they still together since the death of Garcia?
Yes, they are. And Mickey Hart is still with them, and Phil. They're all a working band. And apparently, they've got a really good guitarist playing with them in place of Jerry Garcia. So, who knows? We'll see what happens. It sounds like an interesting project, though.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alan, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.